before going into Gita, I think it starts with science. At least when I was kid, I was very when the universe started. Even when life, what is life, what life started, and animals, trees. Like the good thing is science explained 90% of things or 99% of things. Most of the things, science we know. We know that universe expanded 13.7 billion years back with something called Big Bang. If you guys are learning, roughly 4 to 5 billion years back, sun was formed, Earth was formed. Roughly a billion years back, I think at around same point, 4 billion, life started with like single cell life. Then around 300,000 years back, the evolution came to human, and life kept evolving from single cell to multicellular water, and we'll cover some of those. And then 5,000 years back, we learned agriculture as humans, and now we are pretty evolved species as humans. So this is good. The science explains many things. We know how the universe started, how it evolved, where is it going. Next slide. Same thing for our life as well. We know how we grow, to young adults, to like from kids to adults and get old. 300 years back, if somebody will fall sick, people will think it's an act of God, like somebody falling sick. Now we know, like, okay, there is some sort of virus or something is going on. So that's good, like science has explained a lot. And same thing, 300 years back, when people will be looking up, like they're not really sure what is up there in the sky, but now we know a lot many things. So thanks to science, we know a lot about universe, we know a lot about life. Next slide. But the challenge is science has as a limitation as well. We do not know what happened prior to Big Bang. We don't know, at some point, if universe ends, what's going to happen. Same for our life as well. Science, so far, we have not been able to figure out what happens once we die or before we are born. And that's where Gita or religion comes in. It tries to explain that part, and most of it is belief-based, but at least it is helpful to understand that. And those are the things where that gap is filled by, Gita or religion. Next slide. Also, I think some of you mentioned as well, it helps answering general life questions. Who am I? What is my true purpose, duty in life? Why, what am I doing here? How should I act when faced with a conflict? What is the right way to live in this world? What happens to us after death? What is God? How can I control my mind and emotions? All of these general things science doesn't cover. Gita religion basically tries to cover that. Next. So let's understand a little bit of history of Gita. Next slide. So to understand history of Gita, I think first we need to understand humans' history. If you guys have gone through social studies a little bit, this is what we know so far is the evolution of human as per science started in Africa around 200,000, 300,000 years back, and then the migration started happening in the rest of the world across many generations. Roughly 70,000 years back, humans came towards India, and the migration kept on going further towards China, towards Russia, finally to America, and this part is where Native Americans, or known as Indians, like those guys were there, and very recently, 500 years back, is European settlement and everything started. The point here is India as a civilization is pretty old civilization, which is proven, at least 70,000 years old, if not more, which means our great grandfathers had plenty of time to think about life, understand and observe life over multiple generations. And many things have happened. Some of those we have proof, some of those we don't have proof. I was explaining to Anvi as well, is like when you guys were kids, if somebody asks, okay, prove that, you were babies at one point of time, like maybe we have pictures, or your clothes, or maybe we don't. But if something doesn't exist, it doesn't mean that it did not happen. And that's where some of the conflicts goes, where did Ramayana happened or not, did Mahabharata happened or not, you will hear some of these conflicts as well, and it's a belief system. For most of us, it did happen. There are few proofs available, but if like people really want to microscope and check everything, it happened long time back. So proofs may have gone, or we are yet to discover those. But regardless of that, as a civilization, we are pretty old. Indians coming from India background, like we have a lot of history, and that's some of you told as well to understand a little bit of that. Next slide. This is more or less is what we currently know. It's from various calculations, reading through and artifacts. It's roughly Ramayana is supposed to be happened around 12,000 years back. Mahabharata has supposed to be happened 5,000 years back. Some of this is debated. I don't want to get into that, but for me, like this is a good starting point to know exactly. Okay, this is when Mahabharata happened. Gita was written roughly 3,000 years back as per science. So around 500 BC to around 1000 BC is first few manuscripts can be found. Before that, it is also understood that the knowledge transfer from one generation to next generation used to happen verbally. So any shlok or anything like that, like there will be a gurukul or there will be like school and kids will learn, they will memorize, and then they will pass on to the next generation before even writing developed. So it's not, some of this knowledge was not even written, like, but they were being transferred from generation to generation. And some of it is mentioned in our scripts as well. European Enlightenment happened very recently in last 200-300 years. But for us, this knowledge has been going for like multiple generations. Next slide. To understand a little bit of Gita and Hinduism a little bit, it understands to know how things are structured. So the way in Hinduism, we have a concept of yoga. Yoga is basically era. So this is how we classify things in Hinduism, and some of it comes in Gita as well. It's roughly 4 yugas, Satyug, and it goes in cycles. Satyug, and then Treta Yuga, and then Dwapar Yuga, and then Kali Yuga. And it is also believed that Krishna or Vishnu, basically, they had avatars in each of those. Satyug is 4 times, so the Treta Yuga is 3 times, Dwapar is twice, and Kali Yuga is 1. So if you calculate that, that's the ratio. 4:3:2:1. That's the ratio. Satyug is when it was supposed to be all. So if you think about honesty, people being honest and people being truthful, and you can think of it as a table with 4 legs. So in Satyug, that table has all 4 legs. Like everybody was pretty honest, pretty truthful. When it came to Treta Yuga, it has three legs, that particular table. You can imagine like that. So people were a little bit dishonest. When we went to Dwapar Yuga, the table has like only 2 legs. So half of the people are honest, half of the people are not honest. Kali Yuga is just got 1 leg. So most of the people are not really honest, is in current Kali Yuga. But Kali Yuga is just getting started. I mentioned Gita happened, or Mahabharata happened 5,000 years back. So from 500,000, which is 432,000, 100,000 years, we only have completed 5,000. So Kali Yuga is just getting started. And it is supposed to get more and more worse. People are supposed to be getting more corrupted and more dishonest as we go further in Kali Yuga. But we are just getting started, at least as per the scriptures. Whenever things start going horrible, then Vishnu has to come to earth. That's the belief, to clean up things. It's like your room starts getting horrible, then your mom, dads have to come to your room to clean things up. So it has happened 4 times during Satyug, as a fish avatar, as a turtle, as a boar, as a man lion, and this all has their own stories, very interesting stories. You guys can, either you might be knowing it already, or feel free to go through for them on your own. In Treta Yuga, Vishnu appeared 3 times: Vaman, Parshuram, and Ram. Ram definitely as Ramayana, so that happened in Treta Yuga. In Dwapar Yuga, there are few different chain of thought. Few people think Balram and Krishna, they were the avatars of Krishna. Few people think it's Krishna and Buddha, but overall Balram, Krishna and Buddha, Jagannath, like that's what in Dwapar Yuga is what people believe. So main reason is Krishna was born in Dwapar Yuga. He was at the end of the Dwapar Yuga. Once he died, then Kali Yuga started. Kalki is supposed to be appearing at the end of Kali Yuga. You guys may or may not have seen a Kalki movie, so that's basically based on that. Some of the characters from here are still supposed to be on Earth, like Hanuman is still supposed to be on Earth. Ashwatthama is still supposed to be on Earth, if you have read some of those books. And the prophecy is Kalki will return once everything becomes super horrible, and he will help clean up things. And all these other characters will basically help him in that exercise. Next slide. I also try to map it with real science as well. So if you even think of evolution of life, if you have learned, it's fish is basically when the life form 500 million. This is as per science. 500 million years back, life form was in fish. Life evolved as fish. Around 250 million years back, life evolved, and it's like land, and water both. 50 million years back, life evolved further, is like animals, which is like boar avatar. 5 million years back, ape to human transition started as well. That's where it basically maps to the man-lion avatar. Around 1 million years back, the first human species, Homo erectus, started appearing, which were supposed to be dwarfs, and that nicely maps into the dwarf god. Around 200,000 years back, Homo sapiens, humans started evolving as hunter-gatherers. We were not really living in cities. Hunter-gatherer actually maps to Parshuram, and Parshuram is also supposed to be a character who was hunting other people. He was not really living in cities, so that nicely maps. 20,000 years back is when Homo sapiens, 20 to 10,000, Homo sapiens started farming and living in cities, if you follow science. That nicely maps to Ram, where it is supposed to be the first real city that was established. 10,000 years back, humans started learning about writing, big cities and big states, and knowledge started coming more and more. That nicely maps to time of Krishna. Then 5,000 years back is modern civilization, that we know. Most of the civilization that you will learn about Egyptian civilization, Mohenjo-daro civilization, all of that happens around 5,000 years back. So that nicely maps to around Buddha's time. Future, we don't know what will happen. It could be Homo sapiens advanced form. This is like 500,000 years from now, 500,000 years from now. It could be some form of AI, it could be humans and AI combination, we don't know. But that's where Kalki is supposed to be coming during that time. So there is a little bit of overlap with science as well. So that's something which is interesting. And this was written much before, like at least the left side of things, much before we found any of these. So in many times, it is some sort of indication as well is how life has evolved. Next slide. Now in India, many books have been written in ancient India. Two books are most popular, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana was written by whom? Who wrote Ramayana? Valmiki. Good. And Mahabharata was written by whom? Ved Vyas. Good. Good. Yes. So that's why I put it so that So yeah, and Ved Vyas, the story goes like Ganesh was actually writing, he was just speaking. So that's another story that goes over there. Next slide. But those are not the only scriptures in Hinduism. There are many books that have been written. Mahabharata and Ramayana is supposed to be part of Itihas. Itihas means in Hindi history. So for us it is actually a history book. So that's why we learned Mahabharata and Ramayana as a history book. Gita is part of Mahabharata only. It's not a separate scripture. When Mahabharata was written, Gita is just one part of it. But apart from it, we have Vedas, Shruti, Shruti, Smriti, we have Puran, we have Agam, we have Darshan. So there are many books. Then if you really, at later point of life, want to really go through further, there is no end of reading and understanding. And these are all knowledge from like multi-generation earlier. So what we typically do is we start from Mahabharata, Ramayana, we understand what our forefathers were trying to do or say over there. And then we, if you want, we can go into other scriptures as well. These are the easiest one to read. They are in story form, and they teach us many things. Next slide. So to understand Mahabharata, definitely understand Gita, you have to understand Mahabharata, what exactly is going on. Some of you or most of you might know, but I'll just recap. Basically, there are two families, Kaurav family right there and Pandav family, and there is a conflict going on. Kaurav is led by Dhritarashtra's wife Gandhari. Pandav side, Pandu, who at the time of Kurukshetra, who had already died. Kunti is alive. So Dhritarashtra was supposed to be the king. He was elder brother, but he was blind. So Pandu got to be the king. Then Dhritarashtra's elder son Duryodhan wanted to be a king, but since Pandu was already king, now Pandu's son Yudhishthir was supposed to be the king. Yudhishthir was much more dharma-oriented, much more truthful, much more honest. So he was a better fit as well to be the king. Duryodhan was not like that honest, that truthful. So all those things were going on. They tried to sort it out multiple different ways, but nothing worked. Ultimately, it all led to an actual big war. That war is basically known as Mahabharata. There are other characters in the stories as well. Question? Oh, so many questions. Sorry. Yeah, maybe I'll start from here. Yes.
I watched the series of Mahabharata.
Oh, good. Yes. Yes.
Should there also be Madhuri on the Pandava side?
Yeah, I think this one is a shortened version of the flowchart. If the real version is probably there are 20-30 more characters. But yeah, there are many more characters.
And instead of Duryodhan, there must be 100 other brothers of Duryodhan.
Yeah, I mean there is the Dushashan and there is many more important characters. But like, if we need a bigger slide to capture all of that. Yes.
What about Amma? Wasn't she supposed to be reborn?
Who?
Amma?
Who reborn as whom? Remind me.
She like
Amba, I think.
Amba.
Oh,
Amba, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Amba was born as Shikhandi, reborn as Shikhandi. Ultimately, Bhishma was one character, an important character. And something happened where Amba was supposed to be married to Chitragupta Vichitravirya, who declined. And then she wanted to marry Bhishma, but Bhishma also declined, so she got really furious.
Yeah.
There's a whole story around that. And then she was born as Shikhandi, and in the actual war, she was the real cause of Bhishma's death. But yeah, there are 50 more characters. Very, very interesting story. So yeah, if you have not watched Mahabharata, or if you're watching, I highly encourage, watch Mahabharata. The B.R. Chopra version is what we watched. There is a director called B.R. Chopra. I'm assuming you might be watching now. You watched the new one? Okay. And we have not watched the new one, I think, but yeah, we will give it a try on the new one.
More interesting for
The new one is available on YouTube?
No. It's on
IPT.
IPT.
It's Star Plus Scheme Mahabharata. That's
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but very, very interesting story. In general, forget about the learning part is separate, but a lot of conflict is happening. And many times you learn those things. And what happens to us is when we were reading it as a kids, we enjoyed the story only, we did not care about learning. But once we started working, then we realized there are many things we learned from there. When we are going to corporate, we are going to Amazon, Oracle, any company we are working, some of the strategies we have learned from Mahabharata, we can actually use, and how to be diplomatic and all those things. All right, next slide. So the actual book, if you read, it's written in Sanskrit. It's roughly 200,000 verses of book. if you know Ramayana is spread in 7 chapters. Mahabharata is spread in 18 different chapters. Those chapters are known as Parv. Yeah, go ahead, your question.
She was asking what Parvas is, and then he's telling.
Yeah, so Parv is, Parv in Hindi means festival. In Ramayana, if you have read, it is known as Kand, which is like the part, like Bal Kand, Ayodhya Kand. Here we don't say it, we call it Parv. So it is Adi festival, so book of the beginning, Adi means the beginning. So when Mahabharata is starting, I think Shantanu, Sati, all of those, that's the beginning of Mahabharata, that's Adi Parv. Then Sabha Parv is, you know, there everybody gets together, Indraprasth, you know, happens, that's in Sabha Parv. Then one Parv, when they go to 12 years of exile, Pandavas, that's the one Parv.
So
The-
did you, wait, Parv is chapter?
Parv is chapter or book. When Parv means festival,
Always timeline
right?
too, right? Timeline.
Timeline, yeah. So you can think of timeline. So see, it's such a big giant story. You have to figure out a way to segregate it. So Ved Vyas basically split it into 18 different parts. You can, and he called him Parv. So if you actually read the Sanskrit version, it is literally known as Parv. So Adi Parv. Then Adi Parv talks about that particular time frame. And then one Parv, Virat Parv. Virat is when they spent 1 year in Virat. You know, Udyog Parv, when they came back just before the war. Bhishma Parv is when actually Mahabharata starts happening. All the conflicts have already happened. Nobody is able to resolve the conflict. And as the fight is about to start, as the war is about to start, Arjun says, okay, hold on. I have to figure this out. I'm not really clear. He starts getting doubts. And that happens in Bhishma Parv. And then Krishna basically guides him out. That's Gita. So it is just 700 verses. If you think about Mahabharata is 200,000 and Gita is just 700. A very, very small part of the big giant Mahabharata. 700 upon 200,000 is nothing. It's a very small fraction. But that particular part became so popular, everybody, when they read through it, they understand, okay, it's not just what is being said, there are actually hidden meanings over here. That's why Gita is like, many people say like, if you read Gita, like you don't even have to read other books like Vedas, Upanishad, you don't even have to read those because all that knowledge is condensed. It's like if you worked on Windows, you zip everything, you get a small file, but like zip of everything is put into Gita. So that's where Gita resides. It's part of the Bhishma Parv. So this is the setting. It's all the conflict has happened. The fight is about to start. It's the time. It's on one side it's Kaurav, on other side is Pandav, and Arjun is saying like, hold on, I need some time to absorb this, what is going on. From a location perspective, I mentioned it is in Kurukshetra, which is at the top. So that's your Gita's start. And Gita is Bhagavad Gita, literal meaning Gita is basically song in Hindi, you might have heard this word. So it's basically a song. Bhagavad Gita, it's like, Bhagavad is like God, so it's like God's song. And it is written in it as a poem as well. All right, that's the end of, I think, this slide. So very high level overview of Gita. Then, like.